Ball guy in sight to start the program in studio today on a lovely Thursday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. I host it, Dan Barreiro. Guardsy out again today, is expected back for the Friday Football Beast. At least that's the last I was told. You're not working Friday, are you, Brett Blakemore?
Not as far as I know.
Yeah, as far as I know, he is going to be back tomorrow. Unfortunately, no Sean Salisbury today. He had something come up in his schedule. He may join us tomorrow. That's still to be negotiated. But Chip Scoggins kind enough to join us in studio today to get to all sorts of things, including ball guy debates and controversies pertaining to our favorite baseball team. Welcome back.
Thanks.
It's good to have you here. You got in okay. Did you force your way in, or did you come in behind somebody else, or how did it work for you?
No, there was a line. There must be
there's a concert?
A concert going on, and I saw a line extended.
Did you say you're with the band or something? Is that
I snuck to the head of the line.
Nice.
I anticipated that elevator taking about 20 minutes to get everybody upstairs. So I could have climbed the stairs, I guess, but I cut to the front of the line and used the elevator.
Outstanding decision, and it's good to have you. And there is a lot of ground that we hope to cover between now and, we'll keep you till 4 if you can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Johnny Athletic's going to give us some bonus time, probably about 4:30. He was at the Lynx game last night. I don't think covering so much as I think he was there with his kids.
Sure.
You were not covering last night,
I
were you?
was.
Oh,
yeah.
you were?
Well, I didn't write live. I have a column that should be online here pretty soon.
One of the off days. I got you, because Lavelle wrote it live, I think. Although that's a relative term now with the way deadlines have changed. I don't want to go too inside baseball regarding that issue, but once upon a time, the goal was the technology is going to allow us to extend our deadlines. So we could go, instead of it being 10:30 at night or 11 at night, it might be midnight. It might be 1 o'clock in the morning. It might even be 2 o'clock in the morning for various editions. But it's actually going largely in the other direction, correct? Do you want to explain that?
Yeah. I've always, that whole equation has baffled me. That deadlines have gotten earlier as technology has improved. But
is this a distribution issue?
I've never really gotten a answer as to why, but I think it is distribution. I think it's a number of factors on that. So yeah, we've kind of changed our strategy in terms of publishing. A lot of times, if you're especially if it's a later game than 7 o'clock, you'll go and pick up a column that they will publish early the next morning, and then it runs all day, and then put it in the whole print strategy has changed. It's
pretty dramatically, right?
For a dinosaur like me and you, it's taken some getting used to. But yeah, that's just more the strategy of digital taking precedence.
You're obviously younger than me. Most people are, although I'm younger than Royce, who, by the way, it's a birthday today.
Yeah, 79.
Happy birthday to the curmudgeon. How old now? 79? 79.
Yeah. And still going hard.
So it's hard for me to believe. There's kind of a 10-year gap, because I'm going to turn 70 in January. So it's about in that range. And I too have been described as curmudgeonly, but I hope he's having a very productive birthday. You of course worked with him on the book as well, which Dan Minnesota celebrated his birthday by reading from it. Did you notice that via Twitter?
I saw that last night.
Which was kind of nice. Where was I going with that? I had a point. I don't remember what it was. Here's what's interesting to me about analyzing, because I do want to start with some link stuff. You can look at that game a couple of different ways. The most obvious is, look, they're two very evenly matched teams. They're two very good teams, and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And the formula got reversed. The Lynx did dedicate themselves to not meandering out of the box and trying to take control of that game. And they were the team that had a double-digit lead. So you can say, well, it ends up coming down to a ridiculously impressive, clutch, long shot that you say, well, I'll take my chances with that shot. But I was more bothered by the loss. I thought, from the Lynx standpoint, offensively especially, there was a stretch. To me, they were flirting with fire through most of the fourth quarter of that game. And the stat I had was, see if I can find it here. I think Carlton hits a pair of free throws with 6:06 to go, and it gives the Lynx a 71-69 lead. Okay, we're up 71-69, and I look down the play-by-play sheet. We're still at 71 points. Again, that was at 6:06. She hit the free throws. We're still at 71 points almost 4 minutes later. Mm-hmm. We had 6 straight empty possessions. We had 8 of 9 empty possessions after Courtney Williams hit a 7-foot floater that ended the drought. And to me, that was the story of the game. It was their offense was clunky. A source who shall remain nameless thought they did not go to the basket hard enough that they were like shying away from contact. That they should have gotten to the free throw line a little bit more. So I don't feel it was a great shot, obviously, by Ionescu, but I don't like the way they played down the stretch at all.
Well, the stat that jumps out to me is their shooting in the paint. They were 14 of 40. So they missed 26 shots in the paint.
Yeah.
You make a couple of those, you win.
Right.
And let's give a little bit of credit to the Liberty. I think their size has impacted the Lynx. I think they've worn them down a little bit.
You're saying we could have used Angel Reese?
Could have. That's right. Alana Smith, they could have.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. That's another deal.
So, but some of them they just missed. They missed wide open shots. They missed shots they normally make, and so it was interesting. Reeve, I don't know if it was even subtly said that Fee does not get the calls that Breanna Stewart does.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah, it was early on where she said the same type of movement, same type of force. But we're not getting. She doesn't go to the line as much as her. You know, I don't know if that's the case, but defensively they were marvelous. Intensity, I thought they played hard. Yeah. I didn't necessarily think it was so much shying away from contest because I thought it was a very physical game. I just think they were bothered by New York's size and their, they were Breanna Stewart came over and had a couple blocks.
Yes, she did.
Jones was disruptive in there, and so you look at the stats and they're pretty even except points in the paint. They both had 28 points in the paint. But when you miss 26 shots in there, it's hard to win.
And was Stewart 10 for 10 or 14 for 14 from the foul line? When you look up the box, I know she was in double digits.
Yeah.
And she got to the line. She was the best player last night.
For sure. Like she's a
great player.
Well,
obviously.
that is the thing.
Yeah.
They just have more stars that when they need to rise to the occasion, they can. I think with the Lynx, we've seen it some with Williams, but pretty much it's Fee. With them, they have 3.
They do.
And Stewart, she even said, I was mad when they fell behind, and she came out in that second. She had the quick 2 fouls in the first quarter, but she came out in that second half and said, "Jump on! I'm taking us to the finish line here, and we're going to win this game." And she was so determined, and they threw a lot at her, but she just had answers for everything that they threw at her, and she was brilliant.
Reeve, were you there for her presser after?
Yeah.
The part I saw, and I don't think I saw all of it, so I don't want to judge it in its entirety. She seemed less feisty. She seemed a little beaten down. What do you think? Am I misrepresenting?
I would say disappointed.
Okay.
More than beaten down. I think they were, when somebody makes a shot like that, it takes the wind out of yourselves. And I think that happened.
True.
The players looked dejected. And this is the thing. They have 48 hours to kind of regroup from this. And that's hard.
Yeah.
It could go one of 2 ways. They either do or it sabotages them and they just don't put up the fight that they need against this great team. But I think it was more disappointed in the shots that they took, the offense. She mentioned that the ball stopped moving. I thought they had, you said empty possessions. I thought they had that. I thought they had some rush shots.
Yes.
Sometimes I thought they had the wrong person taking the shot. So it was a combination of all these things that they had that scoring drought and they just opened the door. And when you do that with great players, don't be surprised when a great player makes a shot. It was a fabulous shot.
It was.
That she made, but they opened the door with their offense for that to happen.
No question. And even, I think another sneaky stretch was the end of the first half. I felt like, on the basis of the way most of the half had gone, they were obligated, they being the Lynx, to have a double-digit 12 to 14-point lead. And I think it got cut to 8.
Yes.
Single digits late. And I don't think the Lynx even scored the last 3 or 4 times they got the ball.
I didn't go back and look at it, but my colleague, Kent Youngblood, said the end of quarters were 7-2 run, 7-2 run, 11-2 run.
That's big.
And so they just didn't close out. And I felt like that when it went to halftime, I didn't say they're in trouble, but I was like, this is a ball game now because
you could sense it.
I think it was 10 points. That's close enough for them.
I think it was 8 at the half. Wasn't it 43-35? I think. We'll double check.
It was 8 or 10, and they just, they kind of got stagnant there, and I thought the New York coach made a couple good substitutions. Vandersloot came in and really changed the pace. And so they allowed them to get back in it in the second quarter, and now all of a sudden if it's 8, well, that's a whole another half, and then Stewart took over. And so, if they don't go, if they don't rebound and win tomorrow and win the championship, they'll look back and say, that third and fourth quarter, the shots they took and just their inability to finish at the rim. I mean, it was, and again, I think you have to give New York some credit, but I also think they have to take some blame for just not finishing.
Let's do this. Let's stay on schedule. Chipper is with us for most of this hour. If you have questions for him on the Lynx or anybody else, anything else, because we're going to talk some Twins, ownership issues. We're certainly going to talk Vikings as well, maybe some high school stuff. Combo platter, 64686 is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Are we putting $1,000 in somebody's hand this hour? Is that the plan?
We are. The Fan and 2 men and a...
Chip Scoggins is in studio with us. He was at Target Center last night prepping for a column that might be up, kind of a follow column, because Lavelle, I think, wrote, quote-unquote, live. And you've got a follow column that might already be up at StarTribune.com, or probably soon will be, correct?
Yes.
Depending on how you guys do things?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's online yet, but in the paper.
It will be in the paper for sure. So give me a sense of because watching it, I think this series has been great to watch. Obviously, the first game comeback was mythic. It ranks with any of the great sports comebacks. It'll obviously mean more if it opens the door to winning the thing. It will mean not as much if you lose the series. But I think it's been great theater thus far and very competitive. What was the atmosphere like last night?
It was awesome. Largest crowd ever for a Lynx game, 19,000 something. Yeah. Loud, energetic. And that was part of my column is like these first 3 games have been in terms of tension and drama and high level, competitiveness. Hasn't always been beautiful basketball, but in terms of just the fight that both teams are showing, it's been great. I mean, you have game 1 goes to overtime. Game 3 is a last second shot. And the Lynx have won a road game when they're down by 18 and lost a home game when they're up by 15.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just, things you don't see too often. And so, it's too bad it's a best of 5. I would love to see this thing be best of 7. That starts next year, I think, the WNBA announced. And so, but I think it's, both teams are really fighting hard. I think the defense for both teams is really good. So, I would never, I don't think you can say, well, they lost their chance last night. Severely hurt it, but I wouldn't count out this team to get it to game 5 because I just think they have a lot of fight. I think they have a lot of pride. We've seen it all year. They've surprised us all year. I will be surprised if they don't put forth the great
extend it. To 5.
I will be surprised if they don't put forth the great effort. Now, whether it leads to a win or not, I don't know because I think when you have 3 proven stars, that's just tough to overcome. So, but I don't think it'll be one of those things where they don't respond in the right way to a deflating loss. I think they'll put up a good fight, and I think the crowd will bring it. The crowd was fantastic last night. The atmosphere was awesome.
It looked good from TV, that's for sure. Smith, what are you hearing on Smith? What do you think?
Right after the game, I haven't seen the update from their access today, but right after the game, Cheryl just said it's,
and it's back. It's back.
Yeah, when she fell.
Right.
She was in foul trouble for one, but on the one where Jones kind of backed her down and she fell, sounds like she had a sore back, but she played just under 20 minutes. When she's on the court, plus 20.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, big difference.
-9. So that they just
even when she couldn't do as much, still the plus minus was pretty good.
They just don't have depth.
Yeah,
and so their starters have to be. They have such a small margin for error with their starters, and so that if she's not able to go or she is limited minutes, that's going to be a huge blow. And I don't know. I just don't know if they'll have enough without her if she's can't give them more than 15 or so minutes.
Yeah, that probably could be rather major. The Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is open. If you have questions for our in-studio guest, Mr. Scoggins, 64686. And we're going to, kind of move around a lot. We're certainly going to talk some Vikings. We're going to talk Twins ownership, which he has written about recently, and we've all kind of weighed in on. So if you have questions regarding this series, we can certainly get back to it. What's interesting to me about the Twins ownership situation is the story is evolving pretty quickly. And I don't know how much of this transformation is an ongoing attempt to alibi for the Pohlads, which is curious to me. I don't understand this notion that they are somehow victims in this story. But what you're hearing a lot of now is, they might not have done A, B, and C, or you might have wanted them to be a little bit more artful when they declared we're right-sizing the payroll, but this might not be a situation that's all that attractive to owners given what we think might be the price tag. So be careful what you wish for here. What does your gut tell you? What are you hearing regarding the possibilities of, they're not going to end up selling because they can't find a buyer?
Yeah, I don't know that that's the case. I mean, there's enough rich people out there that want to put their toes into the pro sports market because they all have egos. Everybody has egos, and you would like to, if you had that kind of money, I know there's people that would just love the opportunity to be a pro sports owner, right? So I don't necessarily buy the notion that the list is going to be short or even non-existent for potential buyers. I think it's still. Yes, the TV situation is different than it was previous generation because of the regional sports networks and now Major League Baseball taking it over. And that's a more complicated issue now than I think previous owners have had to deal with. But it's still you got a beautiful ballpark in a market that has history with world championships. And so I'm skeptical of the notion that nobody's going to want to step up and try to buy this team.
I think you pretty much wrote and pretty much believe that you don't even have to demonize the Pohlads if you don't want to understand the reality of the situation, which is there's a rupture. It's a significant rupture, and I think you wondered whether it could actually be repaired enough for the Pohlads to even want to or to continue to go forward, that this is a separation becoming a divorce that might well have become a necessity. Is that how you view it?
I feel like it's untenable, the relationship between the fan base and this ownership family. And it already was trending that way because how long have we heard about the Pohlads and their spending habits for years, right? Some of that's just normal disgruntlement that people have with ownership, but some of it, or a lot of it, was personal experiences and seeing what has transpired. And then when Joe Pohlad came out this year, they made up so much ground in re-energizing the fan base last year with that playoff run. I was there for that series, and it was fabulous. People came back. They supported the team. They invested. They put their money and their emotions back into this organization. And it was, even though they lost and it didn't go as far as they wanted, there was positive momentum with that organization and the vibe that they had with their fan base. And then to come out and not only take $30 million out of the payroll, talk about right-sizing the business, the damage that did in public relations and the way people felt in terms of, now wait a second, we came back. We want to connect with this team. We felt like there's something happening here that was special. And if the owners' names were Barreiro or Scoggins, maybe that wouldn't have been such an issue, but because it was the Pohlads and the history and everything, I think fans were done. I think the damage was so irreparable. I don't think they were going to be able to get past that. You look at their attendance, it was down from last year. They didn't get a bounce at the gate.
Well below their projections
projections. Yeah. I led a column on the last Wednesday of that homestand when they're still alive, theoretically, but still alive. They haven't been eliminated. The Chicago White Sox outdrew them that day. That is alarming. When you're fighting for a playoff spot and you draw less than the Chicago White Sox, the worst team since 1900. So I just think it was untenable, and I felt like this year was weird, and I don't know if you got the sense too, and maybe it's me reading social media or just having the antenna up too much on this, but there was a contentiousness with the fan base, and even when they were winning, it was just a nightly, this team, blah, 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 ownership, blah, 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 manager, and there was a lot of anger in the market, even when in the good times. And so I just felt like there had to be a divorce. This was not going to work going forward. And I know the Pohlads
what do you think triggered them? What do you think ultimately made them go with the announcement? Because they haven't sold the team yet.
No,
Got to remember that. He said, we intend to, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think in the end is driving them?
Well, their statement said that this is something that the family's been talking about since the summer. And that's okay. We'll take that for what they say. But I have to wonder if they didn't look at the landscape too and take the temperature and say two things. One, baseball has changed to a degree that we don't want to be involved with it the way it is now with the TV structure, how much you is being asked of you to spend. But also, you wonder if they didn't look at this and say, this fan base has rejected us. Like, they've given up, and we don't know if we can fix the damage that's been done. And so all those things might have conspired to lead them to this decision, that the intent to sell. But it's just time for a new start and to give. And, we all know there's no guarantees. The next owners might not lead you to the promised land that everybody wants, but I think you have to try at this point. For everyone involved, I think they needed a fresh start and a new ownership.
It's one of the key questions, and I'm getting this from a lot of texters too, is will the next owner be local? The percentage chance that so we're basically talking about who? We would be talking about Cambria guy. We would be talking about the Wilts, at least in theory. Yep. Is there anybody else? I don't think so. Well, maybe there's a few I'm forgetting. I kiddingly said maybe whoever loses the Wolves tug of war for ownership, the consolation prize is they go after the Twins, whether it's Taylor moving on or whether it's A-Rod and Laurie moving to the Twins.
Yeah, I don't know all the wealthy people in town, but it has to take you need to have a certain class of wealth.
The Harv and Marv days are over.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to be a billionaire.
Billionaires now, yeah.
So, but you could put a group together that has a local person that has the higher, So I don't know. It's still early in the process, but I ideally it would be local for obvious reasons. But that's not to say. I wrote about this earlier this year before the Vikings training camps. Remember when the Wills came here and we thought, what do these guys want? Yeah, what are they up to? What can we trust them? I would say they turned out to be pretty good owners. And when you look at what they've invested in the team and in this community, so it doesn't automatically. I think our intuition is to be skeptical when outsiders comes in.
It can go either way. I mean, when McCombs came in, he was beloved because first of all he was good on the air, and secondly the team was good, and then we really started getting to the fine print, and he couldn't have been cheaper. Yeah. And we learned that he really was not a very good landlord at all over this whole thing. So you never know. It can go either way.
It could go either way, and that's the thing. There's no guarantees, but we know you've lived through this ownership group for 40 years, and particularly the last however many years where you've seen the decisions and you just question the commitment of, do they really want to do what is necessary? And I think coming off the season they had and the finish they had to slash payroll $30 million, I think in the eyes of fan base was just unforgivable.
Well, and not only, again, I've talked about this on this show a multitude of times. You're the owners. You can do it, and you can even, in a certain sense, justify it, I guess, on the basis of the lost revenue, although to this day we don't know how much they really lost because they won't let us. They won't tell us, which tells me, by the way, they probably ended up with more money from Bally than what they want us to believe, because then they wouldn't look quite as they wouldn't look as victimized. But it's difficult for me to understand how there isn't somebody who goes to them and says, hey, look, guys, This is all about timing here now.
Yeah.
And if indeed you are talking about a business decision, I'm going to tell you, it's going to hurt you in the pocketbook, but the worst in the front end, but the worst business decision, you can forget, winning fans over, business decision you can make is curling up the way you are.
Yeah.
Because people are going to notice. May not even be fair to you. It might have been Carl who was responsible for a lot of this stuff, but they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And we all see it in the numbers where they projected to get, I think, at least 300,000 in attendance more than they did with a team that largely was in either first place or contending for a playoff spot until the late collapse.
Well, and we see it in any business, whether it's owning a baseball team, newspapers, whatever. When things get tough, what's the natural reaction? Well, let's pull back, let's scale back, let's do less. When does that ever really work over the long term? I mean, you're given an inferior product and hoping that people don't know or it's okay. And so you're right. The timing of it, that's where if they would have thought it through long term and said, this is going to go over as poorly as possible with the fan base after what we were just coming off. And so, yes, it might be harder to swallow because of the TV deal and the lost revenue there. But in the long run, it's not going to be as damaging as cutting the payroll and then telling people about right sizing the business, because you're asking fans to continue to invest hard-earned money. It's not cheap. I mean, it's cheap for us with credentials, but it's not cheap for the fan to take a family to a game. And so it's just, it was such, I think, short-sighted on their part.
Texter Paul, the owners have the right to run the team the way they want. Fans have the right to not show up or watch if they don't like it. I haven't been to nor watched a Twins game this year and apparently didn't miss much. And that's, I think, largely true but this has been the disconnect to me. It's almost as if, any smart businessman would do exactly what Joe decided to do or announced that the poll ads were going to do, but you're not allowed to react to it or notice. It's like you can't have it both ways. Yeah. You have the right to do it, but to act as if then, and fans, you're going to have to understand and take it. Yeah. That's not realistic given what you've just come off of. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And it was, to me, to criticize fans for being bothered to the degree that they were or not showing up in the numbers that they're supposed to because the team was contending through much of the season. That's a little too convenient for me.
Well, particularly if you could go to games for free, then you might say it. But when you're asking people to spend a lot of money to go to your games and buy $12 beers and parking and all this, and have an emotional attachment to your organization, when you show that kind of commitment or lack of commitment, well, then don't be surprised when the fans reciprocate that and pull back and don't go to games and find something else to do. I mean, there is a correlation between that attendance figure and what happened. There's no question. They can say that's not, but 100% there is. How do you have fewer fans a year after that playoff where they finally broke through and finally won a game, finally won a series, and then you don't get a bounce at the gate the next year? That just doesn't happen. No, it doesn't make any sense at all. An owner crying about money is like meat sauce crying about not getting enough food. What does that mean? Is that a meat sauce cheap shot? That's unfortunate. Well, how does meat sauce get thrown into this thing? You've got plenty. Why should we, as working class, spend our hard-earned money on your pathetic attempts of putting a team together? Now, look, you and I both know owners, even who pay the freight, rarely get credited for it. Right. I mean, to a certain extent, it is a thankless job that, or approach that you have to understand. You're never going to. Rarely is an owner beloved, right? Yeah. And you do sort of have to have that kind of thick skin, but that still doesn't mean, and this is where Louis and I got into this the other day. Louis believes what's changing in the landscape is you have to be a billionaire, and you still might have to have some help, but you have to be the sort of billionaire that has reached a point in their existence where they go, there's businesses I have where the profit margin is going to be much greater than what I'm getting out of this. But I did all that. I got all that. I'm kind of bored with it. I want to have some fun with this thing. And that probably means being a little bit mindless and illogical and saying, in the next
5 years, I'm gonna spend more money than logically, based on what all the business numbers indicate, I should. That's what you have to hope for here, correct?
Yeah, you have to have a little fan in them, right? That has that appetite to win. And I go back to the Wolves draft night when they make the move up to get Dillingham, and we were talking to Tim Connolly afterwards, and I asked Conley, I said that because that was going to push them over the second apron and the thing, and the ESPN Bobby Marks had it. I think the jump was going to be $50 million, $45 more million that the owners were going to be on the hook for with their salary cap, luxury tax bill. And he said, and Conley had the great quote that should be plastered all over this metro. What do you say? We're at the grown-ups table.
We're at the big table.
Let's not get scared.
That's it.
And I don't know which owners.
Yeah, right. Signed off on that.
Somebody signed off. I don't know which ones, but that's the point. It's like they got to the Western Conference Finals. Why would you get scared now? Because it's going to cost them $45 million more. But if that's the piece that you need that puts you over top, then you got to go for it.
It's the difference. It's not about lying to people about what the financial realities are, but there's a stark contrast right now between what that message conveyed from Tim Connolly, which was the art of the possible. We're talking about our imaginations are great enough to think, bleep it. We're going to continue to go for it. That doesn't guarantee anything.
No.
They could take a step back this year. A lot of weird things could happen, but it's conveying a message of the art of the possible, what we think we can attain, and to do that, we're going to be aggressive, and we're going to tell you what we can do. The poll ads eternally, even with some of the ball guys, is about what we can't do. What the financial situation, economic realities tell us we can't do over and over and again, and it may well be true to an extent, but then you're back to, well, then get the hell out of it, and let's see if somebody else can be a little bit more creative with it, because that contrast you're speaking of is part, I think, of what has further annoyed Twins fans and pretty much made this divorce, as you say, inevitable between the poll ads and this team.
100%, because you're talking about right across the street, and you have two different things. And I think this also goes back to Dan, because I hear this a lot from fans. When they got that stadium built with some public money, there was that expectation and anticipation of that's going to lead to more money invested into the on-field product. And so when you come back and...
Jerry Bell said it on this very show.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
That was the whole premise, right? That it's gonna be more of a cash cow for the owners to invest in the team. And so when that doesn't happen and doesn't change, and they've made some things, the Carlos Correa signing,
right,
that made a splash. But when you come back and you slash payroll, that's so demoralizing for a fan base versus what you saw what the Wolves did that said, you know what? We're in a moment right here. We're in a window where it's not to be foolish with money. If you're rebuilding, you're not going to do that. But if you feel like you're right there at a chance to be competitive and be relevant, that's when you have to go for it. And that's all fans ask for. And I would say you see that a lot with the Wills. They're willing to put, it hasn't led to a championship, but it's not from a lack of trying and investing in the team. And I think that's why people look at them and say, you know what? They've been good owners because when the moment has been there to try to do something, go get Brett Favre, do this, do that they're willing to try to make that investment to make it happen.
Let's get one more pause in. We'll go to the top of the hour with Chip. I do obviously want to talk plenty of Vikings as well. It's Lions week after all. Looks like some injury issues might be starting to concern Vikings fans, and perhaps rightly so, for this big showdown, which surprisingly to me was not flexed. This is staying as a noon game. It's a great matchup. Have you guys done the research yet at the Star Tribune over how often? So the Vikings are what, 5-0?
Yep.
Lions are 4-1. In the history of this rivalry, have the two teams ever had a better combined record? One loss. What's that winning percentage? I can't do percentages, but it's awfully good. Has that ever happened in the history of this traditional rivalry between these two teams?
That's a can.
Hey, Rubes, this football season, Bell Bank is giving one KFAN listener each week $1,000 to pay it forward to a charity of their choice. Just head over to KFAN.com keyword contest to learn more and how to enter KFAN.com keyword contest.
Chief Scoggins in studio with us. Don't forget, Johnny Athletics are going to give us some bonus time at probably 4:30. Sean Salisbury out today. We might be able to add him tomorrow. Guardsy is scheduled to return tomorrow. So we look forward to that. Bye week for the Golden Gophers. Vikings, so give me I'm confused by the injury update.
Yeah.
Because didn't we just have a bye? And I feel like every day goes by, another player is either questionable or not likely to be available. So who's on the list right now?
Yeah, well, the most noteworthy ones, obviously, are Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he practiced today, I think. But it was a hip in London, and now hammy. Blake Cashman with the turf toe, I think that would be significant, Dan, when you talk about, because to me, and here Harrison Phillips showed up on it too, and he would be significant too, because to me, this game comes down to, can the Vikings stop the run and not let Montgomery and Gibbs get going? Because if they're able to establish their run and lean on that,
that'd be a bloodbath.
It would be, that offense is hard to control, because then Goff can do his thing, he can do play action.
Well, hold on a second. Are you telling me that the running game still matters? I got an angry screed yesterday from somebody saying I'm too obsessed with Aaron Jones. It's not 1954 anymore. The running game doesn't matter. The Lions are telling me it matters, and don't they use 8 offensive linemen at times?
Yeah. Did you see the second half of the Jets game in London?
Right. Yeah.
It mattered not having Aaron Jones in there and just not having that credible option.
Right.
We saw what happened to the Vikings, and so I think Cashman's injury will really have an impact on that. But I think that's where, to me, this game comes down to that. If the Vikings can stop that, I think they will be successful on defense. And because you're talking about Detroit leads the NFL in scoring at 30 points a game, that running game is important to them, and having that balance and not putting everything on Goff's shoulders.
I did, like a lot of people. I don't know if you were there for the B-Flow quote of the week, maybe of the month, maybe of the year, where somebody's talking about how, the aggressive approach of, I don't know if it was the Lions or whoever, and he basically said, me, I like to fight fire with fire, man. I'm gonna throw a few Molotov cocktails into the room too. I just love that. That's sort of him. That's sort of the whole way he goes about it, which I gotta believe his players have to love.
Right? When you talk to those players, they love his personality, his mindset. Not only the aggressiveness and the willingness to take some chances, but also just the creativity and the fact that he will allow guys the freedom to do different things, play different spots, try different techniques, do different things. And he gives them a lot of autonomy when they're on the field.
Clearly,
if they recognize something, make the check into it. And that's just the mark of a great coach. But yeah, his mindset, and we've seen it through the first 5 games, he's gone up against some pretty established, highly respected offensive coordinators. I think he's won every one, right? If you look at the way those games have gone. And so now he's going to face another one with the Lions coordinator who's highly respected. And so this will be another. I think he relishes the opportunity to go against these fancy play callers with explosive offenses to see if he can come up with something that shuts it down.
What does your gut tell you about Sunday, the matchup? Do you guys do picks? I can't remember.
We Gessling does.
Okay.
The staff doesn't. I'm still going with him. I still I think being at home, the injury situation gives me a little pause. I don't know that Aaron Jones is going to play. When you're talking about hamstring, you want to make sure that's 100% because this is. Right. I know it's a different leg, but I think he dealt with that last year. They need to, that second half at the Jets game. I was in London. I can tell you, Dan, the offensive guys were not happy afterwards. I mean, when Justin Jefferson came in,
he clearly wasn't.
He was not happy at all when he walked in.
Which is a good sign, actually.
I loved it.
Yeah,
that's what you want. You don't want wins to gloss over issues, and I think this team is mature enough, and we're seeing it that yes, they're happy that they won, but I think they recognize it's like that's not anywhere near good enough the way they perform there, and so I want to see if they've had time, if Jones is not going to play, if it's different doing it mid-game where you lose a guy and you've had a game plan put in there. He's a big part of it. Now they've had 2 weeks, basically, to figure out a plan that if he's not there, how do you attack it? And can they still get some semblance of a running game without him? Because I think Darnold, I don't want to say everything, the Darnold struggles was all tied to their inability to run the ball last game. I think the Jets' corners were pretty good too, so let's give them some credit. And he had just a poor performance throwing the ball. But I do think when he has that running game and it's not all on his shoulders, I think that contributes to why he's played so well the first 4 games.
No question. By the way, have the Gophers the last 2 weeks done enough in your mind to save this season? I'm not asking whether we're going to get another contract extension for PJ, but do you feel like already enough's happened where, all right, this season to a certain extent has been saved, or you got to have to see more?
They've righted it. They've got to go in the right direction. Obviously, the USC game was a lot more impressive than UCLA. Yeah. They still struggled to put 60 minutes together. They were not good in the first half against UCLA. That was bad. Even PJ said that was one of the worst first halves he's ever had from a team play. So they need to be more consistent throughout a game, but you're seeing defensively, they're creating a lot of turnovers, and I like the quarterback, man. He's got something about him that when you need a play, he comes through. He's accurate. He's mature. He's been a really, really good find for them.
And the running backs are involved.
Yes.
From time to time.
It was great. Yeah. I mean,
it's nice. Yeah. Including on the touchdown pass.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of what we've seen. I mean, and they forecasted that in the preseason. It's like, hey, Darius Taylor's going to be part of the passing game.
Thanks for coming in. So you got, if it's not posted yet, it'll be in the broadsheet actual newspaper tomorrow.
Yep.
A follow preparing folks for
Game 4.
The Game 4 must-win situation for your Minnesota Lynx, correct? Can you give us a sneak peek?
Yeah, just setting that up. And my thing is I'm not going to count them out because I think this team has been resilient. I think they have some fight about them. Now, they got to get past that emotionally, and they only have 48 hours. That's a quick turnaround. But I think this team has the right makeup that they'll come out with the right mindset and put up a good fight. Now, whether they win, that remains to be seen, but I don't think they'll be flat.
Always good to see you. I've got your back with the ball guys who are mad at you because I know a bunch of them are right now.
I'm not getting a Christmas card from the ball guys.
Probably not, but I don't either. I never did. So, some of us understand. Understand your pain. We're here for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chipper. Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune, outstanding work there and with us from time to time as well. As I mentioned, Johnny Athletic will join us in the 4 o'clock hour. We're out at 6 tonight because it's, Vikings programming. Bye week is done. So we will wrap up today at 6 o'clock, but still plenty of time to get into all sorts of good stuff. Back in just a minute here in the Fan.